All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you all. Today, obviously, we had Bitcoin reach a new 52-week high, or actually a new all-time high, actually, above 73,000. So thank you so much for coming in to watch this video. I'm still a little stuffy. My nose is running. My throat's kind of killing me a little bit. So if you hear me snorting or anything like that, if I sneeze, I do apologize in advance for you guys. But we're going to obviously take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin here today. We're also going to take a look at Sphere really quick as far as their financials are concerned for the end of fiscal year 2023 Q4 numbers. We'll also take a look at how will they maybe fare at the halving event, right? If that happens, what's the runway like? And then we'll take a look at the miners as far as what is their value of petahash right now per market cap. So we'll go through all those numbers with HODL and without HODL. So we do have all that stuff to go through here, okay? And let's get into the details. But first, as always, we got to go through this. And as you know, not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research and invest in the following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. Corrections will be posted to Discord, which is through Patreon and YouTube community posts, Twitter as well. So we'll get that all covered there. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on here with the miners really quick. And then we'll get into the story that we have on Sphere and things like that. So Bitcoin reached a new all-time high, obviously, today at 73,000. What was it? The high was 73,709.99 cents. We closed at 73,135, so now we're above 73,000. We are below it a little bit now in the new day. We're down just a little bit here. We're down 0.44% at 72,809, right? We're continuing to have this kind of a nice little step up here. And every once in a while, we'll get this red day like we saw yesterday. We saw it 7 days before prior to as well. We came down, wicked down, came back up, and we're continuing this path upwards, right? It seems like it's kind of slowing down a little bit here maybe. So we'll see what happens going forward. Miners, on the other hand, had a pretty good day for the most part. They were all pretty much in the green today, except towards the end of the day, things started to change a little bit here on us. And we had, obviously, some miners that were down here. The best ones that were out today was, obviously, Bitdeer up 7%, Cypher up 7.8%. Cleanspark was up 3.7, and then HODL was up 8.4 as well. And that's basically it. MicroStrategy was up like 7% or something like that. Let's see, where's MicroStrategy? MicroStrategy was up actually 10%. So MicroStrategy far outpaced the miners today and Bitcoin in general, okay? So that's it. We still have, let me see, what do we have here? We got 35 days until the halving event. So we're getting closer and closer to that halving event. And hopefully that will be some good news for us once we get past it with the miners and things like that, as long as Bitcoin continues to go up in value. Okay, so let's take a look at the story that we have here on Sphere, and then we'll get into the actual numbers for the miners per petahash value per market cap. Okay, so Sphere 3D reports fiscal year 2023 financial results and operational updates. And these guys are like one of the smaller miners that we cover here. And they're the ones that we originally thought they were going to be in trouble come halving event. But with Bitcoin price going up to 72,000, 73,000 now, a lot of these guys might actually survive the halving event, whereas before we were thinking that they might be going out of business. But we do have some information here as well. Some highlights here really quick. We'll get through this. Revenue increased by 15.8 million to 21.9 million during the year ended December 31st due to increase in revenues from our digital mining operations. The company mined 667 Bitcoin. The company ended the year with 1.3 exahash. And then the company sold its services and product segments, including HVE Inc. and Unified Connections, it looks like. So it looks like they're selling stuff to basically survive the halving event, it looks like. Bitcoin assets and value as of December 31st, the company had about 23.8. Bitcoin carrying value of about $1 million at that point. It's probably more now. An additional 21.6 Bitcoin held by Graphene Digital Mining on their behalf. So hopefully they get that back from Graphene. Going down here, where was it? I actually highlighted it. Here we go. Fourth quarter and recent corporate developments. So on October 6, 2023, the company terminated the master service agreement with Graphene Digital Mining, returning 22.5% to the company's gross margin. So that's good there, right? On December 19th, the company's 3,162,500 shares, or 3.1.62 million, of minority equity opportunities acquisition, MEOA, Class B common stocks were canceled, eliminating the company's ownership of MEOA, and the company's recognized a 6.1 million gain related to the deconsolidation of MEOA. So that's good there, right? And they're basically shoring up their balance sheet here, looks like. And then on December 28th, the company entered into a share purchase agreement with Joseph O'Daniel, the purchaser-related party under which the company sold its service and product segments, including HVE and Unified Connections, in consideration for $1 in the transfer of HVE Inc.'s and Unified Connections outstanding assets and liabilities, In connection with the share purchase agreement, the purchaser who served as the company's president resigned effective December 28th. The company recognized a non-cash gain of $0.7 million related to the transfer of net liabilities to the purchaser. So that was good there also. And then during the fiscal year 2023, the company sold 3,336 Bitcoin miners that were included in mining equipment for cash proceeds of $4.5 million. So they're obviously in a cash crunch here, and we can definitely see that here. But things have improved a little bit, so they're in a little bit better shape than what we thought originally. And this could possibly help them out just a little bit as we get into the halving event, which we're going to take a look at here shortly. But that's basically it. Let's take a look at the numbers that we have here for them. Sphere currently has 14.3 million shares as reported on their 10K statements today. And then, so that gives them a market cap of 23 million right now. Okay. Current hash rate, they're saying they're at 1.3. I have them at 1.2, so they must have installed something here recently, or at that time. I think that at that time they were at maybe 1.3, but they came back down here. Yep. Right. We had 1.3, and then they came back down here to 1.2. So they were at 1.3 exahash in December here. Going down here to the quarterly results, we can see that revenue has been increasing, which is nice, but they've had mainly they benefited from Bitcoin price going up in value, it seems like to me. And then the last 4 quarters operating costs, those have also been going up as well. That's not a good sign for us. Cost to mine 1 Bitcoin minus depreciation has come down a little bit here to 21.9 thousand in Q4. It was 23 in Q3. Bitcoin mine quarterly has been increasing here as well, so that's looking pretty good here. We'll see how Q1 stands to look. And then debt to equity has been coming down as well, so that's good. And then current ratio, higher is better. That has increased, but obviously them selling some of the assets, miners, things like that. They're shoring up their balance sheet basically to get into the halving event, which is definitely a smart move. Total current assets has increased to 13.5 million, so pretty much double where they were in Q3 at 5.2. Total current liabilities has decreased to 5.3 as well, so that's good there as well. Looking down here, they reported of 7.1 million in revenue. I had them at 7.8. I'm not sure why I have them that high, other than maybe they're reporting with the BTC that they got from other business segments as well, which was around, I think, 500,000 or 600,000, something like that, which may have made up that difference there. So that could have been that as well. Typically, we've been pretty close to them, so a little surprised by this number here. That's why I'm questioning if they actually added more stuff to it. Okay, going down here to the quarterly financial side of things, we'll look at my metrics up here in a second. Assets, like we talked about, 13.5 million here from 5.2, so that's good. Total assets actually decreased to 45 from 59. Biggest, I think, decrease on that was the other assets. So they had 20.5 million in other assets, now they're down to 3.4. That's the main difference there. Going down here, current liabilities decreased to 5.3 million from 6.6 million. Total liabilities decreased to 5.3 from 11.5, so that's good there. Okay, looking at down here, total liabilities and stockholder equity, that's down to 45.6 from 59 million. And then revenue. So here's revenues, 7.1 million here for digital self-mining, and then 552 for services and product revenue. I think that's going to obviously change here going forward where they won't have that. So maybe we'll get better numbers in Q1 for them. Total revenue was 7.138, or 7.6. Total revenue for self-mining was 7.138. Expenses here. So cost of digital mining revenue was 4.7 million. So that's roughly, what was it going to be? Profit margin of roughly around 30% or something like that, just on that part of it. Cost of services was 185,000. Sales and marketing was 180. Research and development 167. You're seeing some of these things being down from the prior quarter, Q3, which is good. General administrative was up 5.3 million compared to 3.4 million. I'm guessing they probably put in bonuses and things like that into it as well, which a lot of companies do in the fourth quarter. That's probably why that's up, but otherwise it's been pretty flat here, or pretty steady in the last 3 quarters prior to that. So I'm guessing that's the only thing, unless they're actually paying themselves more. Depreciation and amortization came down 1.7. What else do we have here that was kind of big? I think that was basically it. But yeah, you can see here that total operating expenses was at 22.8 million. Definitely way off from where the revenues are off, right? Total operating expense from the prior quarter is 12 million here, a little bit better, but still underwater here. And then here we go. Gross profit minus depreciation was 13,000 negative. And then gross profit minus depreciation percentage was negative 174% from that. Let's see. Cost of revenue minus depreciation was 10.5. And that we're only including these things up here on that one. Going down here, other income expenses, that totaled negative 8.7 million. So that was up from the 6.3 negative that they had prior to that. Net loss came in at negative 8.7 on the quarter, it looks like. In the prior quarter was negative 6.3. Don't know how many shares they had at the end of the quarter, or average shares. They reported the number of average shares basically for the end of the year. Basic and diluted shares was 12.1 million here for the year. I'm guessing that was probably higher here in Q4, probably around 12.8, maybe 13 million in that. And then we could probably figure out what that net loss per share was at that point. Okay. So big thing here obviously was the expenses, and the general administrative compensation here was up quite a bit. And then going back up here to my metrics here, let's see. Cost of money, one Bitcoin, like I said, was 21 million. If you take out the depreciation from that, that's 21,000, sorry. But with the depreciation was 56,000 per Bitcoin at that point. Okay, we covered debt to equity, current ratio, we already covered that. Book value of equity, 40.3 million. Price to book ratio, 0.5. Right now, enterprise value was 17.1 million. EBITDA was negative 6.9 million, and then EV to EBITDA was negative 2.4 on that one. And then revenue, here we go. So general administrative compensation was 71% of revenue. That is way too high. Way too high for any business in that matter. I don't know how any business would be profitable at that point, right? You need that to be like 20% at the most, I think, if not lower, to be profitable. So that's obviously not a good sign, and that's actually gone up here from the 65% that they were in Q3 as well. Okay, so that doesn't bode well as well for them. Shares outstanding right now, like I said, was 17.8 million roughly. That has obviously increased here. But yeah, that's basically it on Sphere 3D as far as what's going on with them, right? Not much growth with them, and that's obviously a concern. They have done some good things here to pay down the debt, sell business segments that they could get cash for, shore up the balance sheet. Those are all good things here. But when we look at their numbers here when it comes to the halving event, and that is over here. So here's Sphere 3D. I plugged in all the latest numbers that we do have here for them. And at this point, even with Bitcoin at 72,000, with the network hash rate of 570 exahash, block reward at 450, so we're at the halving event right now. Since we're 35 days away, it seems like we might be pretty close to that, depending where Bitcoin goes. But otherwise, they basically have like 2 months of runway here, unless they dilute some more. That's the only thing that's going to really keep them alive at this point. Okay, so they're definitely one of the smaller miners that we cover here right now. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of them. Let's get into the market cap per petahash metrics. Take a look and see which miners are actually undervalued or overvalued at this current time. We do have quite a few that are looking pretty overvalued, and we have a lot that are looking way undervalued, but there's reasons for that as well. So if I scroll over here, there we go. Here's what we got. So on this, what we're doing is looking at the market cap value, and we're basically dividing the hash rate by the market cap to figure out what is the value that investors are placing on the miners right now per petahash. Okay. And the way you could look at this is the lower the number is, the more likely that they are undervalued, but there might be reasons for it, right? There's always something that's maybe not right with the company. There's other issues, and that's maybe why the investors are not valuing them as high as some of the other ones. So if we just look at market cap per hash rate right now, that's installed hash rate. We're not including HODL into this, or actually this, let me see, this would include HODL. So the market cap would include the HODL numbers in here. Later on, we'll take out the HODL value from the market cap and look at the hash rate now and the future hash rate as well. So right now, market cap with by hash rate, you got Stronghold coming in at number 1 as the most undervalued currently, getting about 10.6 thousand per petahash. That's definitely pretty low there. Next, you got Mawson with 15.7, and you got Sphere 3D at 19.26 thousand as well. Digihost at 32.39. So there's kind of like the 4 ones that are getting the most undervalued based on their hash rate right now. And the reasons for this is Stronghold obviously has some poor operations as far as high costs, things like that. They're not profitable. And there are some good things with Stronghold. Obviously, the stuff that they're doing with the spent coal and everything else, the reuse of that and cleaning up the sites, that's fantastic. But their operation side of things has not been great. They've been burning through cash each quarter, and they just haven't been able to be profitable. Now, they are going through the carbon capture program right now, where they're installing those types of things to help them out potentially. We'll have to see how much of an impact that actually has on the bottom line, if that can actually get them to be positive cash, be positive on the earnings side of things. Okay, but that's Stronghold. Mawson, another one that's not a lot of growth there. Same thing with Stronghold, not a lot of growth. They also have issues, right? They do a lot of hosting. They haven't been growing. They have older miners. There's a reason why that they're being undervalued there. Sphere 3D, same thing. We just talked about Sphere 3D, right? Not a great, a little bit better balance sheet than they had been in the past, but still not great. Only about 2 months worth of runway before they possibly go out of business if you go into the halving event. And then you got Digihost, same thing, a little bit not as healthy of a balance sheet as the other ones as well, and just not growing much, right? Those guys are kind of like the smaller miners. Stronghold is like at 4 exahash right now, but they also have hosting included in that, so they're like at 3 something, right? 3 exahash for self mining at that point. And then you got CORZ. CORZ is the number 5 spot right now. CORZ obviously just got a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Everybody's kind of waiting to see what those numbers look like for them after they get out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we're looking for basically Q1 financials from them, if not even Q2 financials, to see how they are doing after they got out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Argo is another one that's kind of stuck here. They've been selling some of their facilities as well recently. Their balance sheet isn't great as well. They're at number 6 spot right now, but they're getting valued at 36,000 per petahash. And then you got DMG here, which is also a small miner. They have a healthy balance sheet. Everything is good with them. I think they've been even profitable here in the last quarter in Q4, but they're just small, right? Then you got TeraWulf. TeraWulf is growing nicely here. The only bad thing with TeraWulf, they have debt, right? And that debt is a concern right now for investors. If they can fix that debt, they'd be in a lot better shape, I think, and probably valued a lot more. But they're being valued at 52,000 per petahash. Then you got Hive here at 65,000 per petahash. They're number 9 spot. Hive is actually very efficient when it comes to mining. They're just not growing as fast as some of the other miners that we're seeing here towards the bottom of the list here. And that's because their goal is to maintain 1% of the Bitcoin network hash rate, basically, with their mining fleet. That is their goal. They're not looking to get to a top 5 Bitcoin miner. They're happy with where they are with 1% of the network hash rate. So that's probably why they are where they are. Iris at 72,000 per petahash right now. They're number 10 spot. Iris is growing also, but Iris also doesn't HODL anything, right? They don't also report quarterly. So those two things could be kind of a knock on them a little bit to keep them down a little bit more. But they're also going to be growing to about 20, 21 exahash, something like that by the end of the year. That's the plan at least. So they do have plenty of growth here. And then I think if they actually reported quarterly, maybe had a little HODL, that would definitely help the stock out here. Plus they're getting into AI like Hive is as well. Next is BitDigital here. They're at 75,000 per except for petahash, sorry. They're in number 11 spot here. BitDigital is supposed to be growing. They're supposed to be doubling, I believe, their hash rate as well as what their plans are. They're also getting, they're using AI right now, or providing AI services and getting paid about $15 million in revenue on that. We want to see what is that profit margin on that right now. So we'll probably find that out in maybe Q1 financial results. We'll get a little bit more information on that. And then you got Hut 8 here with 95,000 per exahash right now. And they're number 12 spot. Big thing with them, obviously, there's been a lot of turmoil in the company recently in the last 6 months or so. There really isn't any guidance as far as where they're going to be growing with their own self-mining hash rate. There's been a lot of talk about, what's the word I'm looking here for? Basically trying to utilize the cash and the money that they have to go after things that they see as being more accretive to investors than Bitcoin mining, right? So they're looking more towards the managed hosting side of things, the hosting things that they're working on currently. So that's kind of where they are at. And without having a clear path to where they're going to go with their self-mining, that's obviously having an impact on that stock. BitDeer is at 111,000 per petahash. They're number 13 spot. They also have other business segments as well in there. So they're also supposed to be growing, but I don't think there's much growth left in them in this year. So they're kind of getting up there a little bit higher where I think they probably should be. And you got Bitfarms at 116,000 per petahash right now, which is a pretty good spot for them. Number 14 spot here. So looking a little bit more overvalued than some of the other ones here. But Bitfarms is at 6.5 exahash. They're supposed to get to 21 exahash by the end of the year. They've already purchased all the miners. They have the facilities, I believe, in Argentina, Paraguay, and Argentina, to get them to where they need to. They're going to have to build them out, obviously, but there's still a lot of growth here with Bitfarms. And they obviously have been through this before with the cycles, so I don't see a problem there. So I think they're kind of getting pretty well valued for that, maybe a little bit less than some of the other ones here. You got Cypher here, 155,000 per petahash, right, number 15 spot on it. Cypher has been doing really well here recently. They're supposed to get, I believe, to 10 exahash this year, and then they're planning to grow even more into 2025. But they do have the option to buy more miners in the this year still if they can build out the infrastructure fast enough. Okay, so that would be interesting to see if they could do that. I think that would be great. Now you got Cleanspark here, number 16 spot. They're getting valued at, I probably have those two wrong. It should have been Marathon and number 16 and Cleanspark number 17 here. Now let's go down here. Where did we mess up here on this one? If we go, let's fix this. Sort, ascending, Marathon. Yep, Marathon should have been 16. See, caught a mistake. Joys of doing things live. Okay, so let's see here. And then if we go back over here, we sort it, ascending. We should have it right. There we go. Okay, fix that one. All right, so Marathon's number 16 spot with 205,000 right now, right? They've possibly they were at like the top one last quarter or last month when we did this. The reason that they're down right now is because their performance over the last 2 months in January and February has been abysmal as far as uptime and everything else. They've got issues at 2 other facilities, and they just can't seem to get those things resolved. So we'll see how they do going forward. Cleanspark, number 17 here with 211,000 per petahash, right? Cleanspark obviously grew hugely here in the last month, getting to 16 exahash, basically installing 6 exahash, and they have plans to get to 32 exahash this year as well. So they're obviously getting valued highly for that. They also have a HODL. Riot is being valued more than Cleanspark right now with 239,000 per petahash, and they're also having issues with their operations and uptime and things like that. So I would actually think that Riot would be a little bit lower on this scale compared to like Marathon and Cleanspark. Cleanspark, I think, should be like the one that's on the top part here, getting more of a value based on what their operations are, uptime, and everything else. Okay, so that's kind of the background on all these guys here really quick. And based on, like I said, these right now would be like the most undervalued here. These are the ones that are kind of overvalued or possibly even, you could possibly say, fairly valued because they are growing. They have good operations, good uptime, things like that, and plenty of growth ahead, right? So you're kind of seeing that difference here. Companies that are growing a lot are getting much better valued than companies that are not, okay? Or if there's issues with the companies as well. Then if we take a market cap to future hash rate, we can see how things stack up now. Now you got Stronghold number 1, Sphere number 2, Mawson number 3, CORZ number 4, DMG number 5, Digihost. You can see the list going down here. Marathon, right? Number 18 here, the most overvalued here based on future hash rate. Followed by Cleanspark, BitDeer as well, Hut 8, and then BitDigital and Riot is actually number 13, which kind of probably where they probably should be right now based on their operations and things like that. Going down here to market cap minus HODL. So now we're taking out the HODL from the market cap and we're looking at the current hash rate. At this point, you can see when we take out Riot's hash rate, they're pretty close to Cleanspark right now, right? Marathon's still third one most overvalued here, followed by Cypher, Bitfarms, and probably BitDeer. And there's another one I need to fix. BitDeer and Bitfarms have changed on me. I know why it's changed because I've updated the pricing or the share price here before going live. And I did these graphs here earlier. Now I know why things have changed. Okay, let's see here. Number 3. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Sort of ascending. 1, 2, 3, 13, and 14, 15, 16. Okay, there we go. Go over here. Do that. Sort ascending. And then there we go. Okay, so that's fixed now. And then we have to fix this one as well. Doggone it. Now, bear with me here, folks, for a second while I fix this. Ascending. And we want to do this one as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, there's that one. Go over here. Sort of ascending. There we go. Now we got all the graphs properly fixed. Okay. So like I said, market cap here on this one. Hut 8 is now the most undervalued if you take out their HODL, right? They're basically getting valued for just their HODL position right now, it looks like. Stronghold, right, number 2 spot. Mawson, number 3 spot. Sphere 3D, again, number 4 spot. DMG, number 5 here. DMG, I think, should be a little bit higher on this than Digihost, Hive, Core, Argo, all these going down here. And then market cap minus HODL, looking at the future hash rate. And you can see here that Marathon's still getting the most value here for it, followed by BitDeer, Cleanspark. BitDeer obviously should be way lower on the list here, I think. on this, but Riot going down here, Cypher, and then TeraWolf, and then obviously again Stronghold, Hut 8, Sphere 3D, Mawson, DMG. I mean, you see the same candidates here, each graph after each graph on it. So that's kind of the way things are shaping up here. Now, if we look at all the numbers here, now I gotta do this, sort ascending, and there we go. Again, here's the total scores for all the 4 different ways we looked at it. Stronghold, right, the most undervalued here, followed by Sphere, along with Mawson, DMG, CORZ, like we've talked about, out of bankruptcy. They should be much higher here on the list, but we're just waiting on quarterly results. Digihost, Hut 8, Hive, Argo, TeraWolf, Iris, Bitfarms, BitDigital, Cypher, BitDeer, Riot, Cleanspark, and Marathon getting definitely more value for the Petahash based on their future growth and things like that. So that's kind of how everything plays out. I like to look at this, especially when you combine this with other metrics, right? What's their uptime, other things like that, and you can kind of see if they are being, fairly valued for it, or where they should be valued a lot higher. In last year, when I was checking Cleanspark was like down here in the middle range, somewhere around here, right? Even though their operations were fantastic, they had huge growth ahead of them, and finally they've flipped that a little bit here, and they've obviously gotten to the section where they're more overvalued on it all. Okay, but that is basically it that I wanted to go over with you guys. It's kind of nice to take a look at this, see how everything kind of stacks up with HODL, without HODL, and then just take a look at it all. Okay, so let's get into your guys' questions here. We'll see how many questions we can get done relatively quickly here. And this is delayed a little bit, so I'm delayed like maybe 15, 20 seconds. So if I don't answer your question right away, it's because I'm waiting for the stream to catch up with you guys here a little bit. But as always, before I forget, all of these spreadsheets, all of these charts, all of these metrics, everything is available to my Patreon members. It's still $8 a month. There might be some spots that are open for $5 or $4 a month. And if you pay for the full year, you get 10% discount on top of it, and you get access to our Discord private server, which there is a bunch of great conversations happening there as well. And we'll leave it at that. So that's my sales pitch. Okay, let's get into the Q&A here side of things, and we'll go from there. Okay. So question. Wow, that was quick. Genpel asks question. I thought Cleanspark would be at 20 exahash. How did they not say when they planning to add 4 exahash to get to 20 exahash? So the plan for them is still to get to 20 exahash by the end of the first half. So basically by the end of, what's it going to be? By the end of June, right? They're supposed to get that with the facilities that they have in place right now. So that's going to happen within the next basically 3 months or so. They'll get to 20 exahash then, and then they're going to be getting to the 32 exahash potentially by the end of the year. They have to buy facilities, build them out potentially. So it's going to be a strain on them to do that all in basically 6 months' time, unless they're buying something right now, which we don't know. So that's kind of where we're at with it right now. Let me take out this one. Okay, let's see here. Let's see, do we have any other questions coming in here? I don't see any other questions. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay, let's see. Oh, I see some questions coming in here. Let's see if my stream will catch up here. Come on. There we go. Let's see. Question. There we go. Okay. Question. Do you think the BTC miners will underperform last cycle on a percentage basis because the BTC ETFs allow people direct access to BTC and they will not have to look at BTC adjacent products? Could be not, right? If people, I mean, we saw a lot of people last time make a lot of money on the miners because the miners are just so much volatile. There's so much more beta to them compared to Bitcoin, and investors like that, right? They like that volatility. They can play the market. They can swing trade them, do the options, do the things and everything else. So I think that's still going to maintain this to stay the same. I mean, we're kind of seeing it with MicroStrategy right now. MicroStrategy is like a 2 or 3x on Bitcoin as it is. So I think this is going to continue. Plus, the miners are, a lot of them are up like 600%, 500%, 400%, even from last year, right? Where Bitcoin's only up 200%. So there's still that leverage play here, I think. The only thing with the spot Bitcoin ETFs is you have people that have no idea how to self-custody their own Bitcoin or anything like that. The boomers, the older generation, that's easy for them to get into Bitcoin this way with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And that actually is helping out Bitcoin in the long run and the miners, I think, as well, once we get past the halving event. Let's see here. When will CORZ have their second quarterly and jump on the train now or wait for the results? Well, I mean, we're only in the first quarter right now. It's going to be ending at the end of this month. It's going to be first quarter. So they'll report that possibly May sometime, hopefully early May. We'll get at least 1 quarter of them being out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We can kind of see how they're doing at that point a little bit. And then depending on what the numbers are, people may still think to wait for the second quarter results. Okay. Let's see. What if miners don't bottom after the bull run and only keep going up and stabilizing at higher prices because the world will have adopted BTC very well? That's a good question there. You know, at that point, I think the miners will just kind of, depending on where Bitcoin goes. Bitcoin continues to go up, right? Where typically we expect Bitcoin to go down after about 12 to 18 months after the halving event. If Bitcoin continues to go up after that, right, we maybe have a little pullback, maybe not like the 80% drops that we had before. What if we go down only 20, 30% on Bitcoin at that point, and then we continue going up, right? I think a lot of the miners will be up huge anyways. People will be selling at that point just to take in profits potentially, because they've been through the 2021 cycle where they got burned, where I think Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000. It never got there to 69,000. So I know a lot of people are going to be probably taking profits at that point. And if things continue going forward, with Bitcoin going up in value, they may get back into it. But there's going to be definitely a lot more caution into it, I think, towards that part of it. Let's see here. Why do you always say Wolf and debt in the same sense? What about lowest cost per Bitcoin? They always, well, they're not the lowest cost, but they're one of the lowest costs per Bitcoin. The reason I say debt, because debt is obviously having an impact on their stock price right now. There's a reason why stock is the way it is, and that's debt. Everybody knows about it. They had 140 million of debt that they had to pay down this year. They paid down 40 million so far. They're going to be paying down a little bit more. They might be down to like 70 million by the end of Q1 potentially, maybe Q2. But they still have that debt that's obviously going to be an impact on them when they get into the halving event. Into the halving event. That's going to be not good for them, but they are going to be probably restructuring it, or they're going to be restructuring it, or doing share-based dilution so that way they can pay it off or something like that. But that's, you know, debt is important when you're going into halving event. You want to be basically debt-free when you get into that halving event. Let's see here. What are you doing? What are you going to use to estimate the top in this bull run would be? Some last cycle, some topped before BTC did, like Riot. Yeah, so some of the miners topped before. Last bull cycle we had was in obviously 2021. We had a double top. The first top, a lot of the miners actually topped before Bitcoin did, and then they were kind of sideways going down a little bit here. The only one that did another double top was Marathon. So we'll see if we get that again. But I do think the miners might obviously top before, front run Bitcoin a little bit here, like they have in the past. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what's going on. We're still early. We still have about 10 to 12 to 18 months after the halving event when things get usually pretty high with the spot Bitcoin ETF. Things might change. We might be at 6 months down the road from here, and Bitcoin could be at 250,000, right? We just don't know. At that point, a lot of people, I think, are going to be taking profits if miners are up to 5x, 10x, whatever they might be at that point. So things are going to be definitely a little bit different this time around, the last cycle. But we'll see. Any thoughts on BitMining Limited? I don't cover them. For the most part, I've covered miners that have reported their monthly production updates. And the ones that haven't, I haven't even looked at them. And then recently, I've been looking at miners that, if they're not at least going to be like 5 exahash, and they're providing monthly production updates, I may not even cover them. There's just not a lot of interest that I'm seeing here. Like in the smaller miners like Digihost, DMG, Sphere, right? Some of the other ones, there's just not that much interest in it. So it's kind of like, I could maybe use that time to look more deeply into the other miners instead of spending the time on those guys. You know, it's just a thought there. Approximate date for Cleanspark quarterly, your expectations, they should be positive on EPS for this quarter, for the Q1, which is ending this month, obviously. They've had great numbers in January, in February. March looks like it's going to be pretty good as well. They're at 16 exahash for the full month. So that should be a huge improvement there as well as far as revenue. Bitcoin's going up in value as well. That should be helping them out. I think that's going to be a pretty good quarter there as well for them. Let's see here. Question, I listened to the Bitfarms video, but didn't hear the approximate dates for opening their new facilities when they are receiving the miners besides just end of year. Yeah, they didn't really provide as far as specific timeline, right? They're just saying that they're looking to get to 21 exahash by the end of the year. But you're talking about the video with Ben Gengen, I think his name is, from Bitfarms with Bryce McNally and Anthony. Great video. Definitely check it out if you haven't, if you're interested in Bitfarms. Question: when you see the bleeding stop for miners, it's dropping while BTC breaking all-time highs. I personally don't think we're gonna. Well, I personally think we might not stop the bleeding until possibly after the halving event. Right now, the halving event I think is weighing too heavily on investors because obviously revenues are going to get cut in half, right? But if Bitcoin keeps going up and we're like at 80, 85,000 by the time the halving happens, or even 90,000, they're going to be making the same thing that they were making at Bitcoin 45,000, right? So plus we got the we have the transaction fees being added to it as well, which will account for more percentage to it as well. Now that Bitcoin's going to be at 3.125 after the halving, that's going to be also, I don't think they're taking that into account as well. But that's kind of why I think the miners are down right now. Which is the best Bitcoin miner? There's a couple out there, right? If you watch my videos, you pretty much know. The ones that are growing, good healthy balance sheet, uptime. Those are the things I look at, right? Efficiencies, things like that. So you probably already know that anyways. Okay, what are your thoughts on IREN based on your various recent updated analysis? I still like IREN. IREN is my number 3 miner that I'm invested in. The only thing that I don't like is no HODL, and the only thing else is the no quarterly results. If they could fix those two things, I think they would be in much better shape. But they're obviously growing well. They're also getting into AI stuff. We'll have to see how that works out. I'm a little skeptical on that right now. I want to see some numbers for it. I want to see profit margins on it. What is that like? So that will kind of help ease my mind a little bit on that. But right now, I'm just a little on the fence on that AI stuff. Question: I added more Mara today. Is that foolish? No. You know, Marathon is the 500-pound gorilla in the room here. They outperformed everybody in the last cycle as far as percentage gains and everything else. They're probably more likely to do that again just because of their size, their name recognition, everything else. So I don't think that's foolish at all. I think Marathon's definitely going to do well, by my opinions. But I think there's other miners that might do as well, if not better. Right? So there's always two things which you want to get into. Let's see. Thoughts on Hive here. So Graycon, thank you. Thoughts on Hive. Do you think they'll be able to capitalize on the next bull run? They should be able to, right? Like I said, they're not really looking to grow. They're looking to maintain a 1% of the Bitcoin network hash rate. So they're going to be probably like around 5 to 6 exahash, going to 7 exahash. You know, as the Bitcoin network hash rate increases, they're going to also try to increase their hash rate to stay with the Bitcoin network hash rate, stay at 1%. But they have great operations, and they should be profitable. The only thing is, being in Canada, they can't take advantage of the FASB rules, which might be a little knock on them with really no fault of their own. Maybe if they move their headquarters over to the United States, then they can utilize that as well. And that will make them actually a little more profitable, probably more comparable to the miners that are in the United States that are growing. So something maybe to look into for Hive at least. Let's see. Looking for questions here. Do you think that it's possible that the money that was in the miners has gone to the ETFs instead? Miners are no longer the only Bitcoin play on the stock market anymore. Part of it could have been, right? We've also seen the miners go up huge this past year, right? So that could be also contributing to where people are taking their profits, going to MicroStrategy also, going into NVIDIA as well, going into these ETFs as well, or the BitX one, which is like a 2x on Bitcoin itself. So people are just playing the market. Once those things get a little frothy, they may then rotate back into the miners here. And I think they will after the halving event potentially. But we're still seeing institutions buying into the miners, so I'm not too worried about it. Let's see here. How much do you think transaction fees are helping the miner? Right around 5%, 4% increase in transaction fees alone this month. Last month was about 5% as well. January was 10%, and then December was 20%, right? So it's been coming down a little bit here. But as we're seeing more and more transactions on the network, we're seeing those kind of increases as well. So we might be between 5 and 7.5%, something like that, depending where we end up with the remainder of the month left here on that one. Let's see here. Okay, based on CORZ recent earnings, do you believe they are making the right decisions moving forward? Yes, they're doing the right things. Buying mini miners, growing their hash rate. They're also not restructuring, but they're also renegotiating their hosting, which they're now more profitable on that, where they were losing money on it before. That's good there. They're also doing another AI thing with somebody else. I can't remember the name right now, but that's supposed to be like 100 million potentially for them over a couple of years. So they're doing all the right things. One thing I would like to see them do, obviously, is keep their costs down. But with restructuring, that obviously cost them in Q4. So we want to see those numbers lower. We want to see general administrative lower. We want to see sales lower. We want to see, what else is there? Research and development being lower in costs and things like that. If they can keep their costs down, they should do all right. Okay, why hasn't Cleanspark held price at higher level while Marathon has been dropping much farther down? Cleanspark has great operations, right? They're still mining at close to 100% uptime. Marathon, on the other hand, is operating at, 40% on average here over the last month prior as well. So that's the reason why, right? Marathon should be mining a heck of a lot more than where they are right now. And that's just kind of the reason why, I think. Even though they have a much higher HODL, but their operations aren't that good. Let's see. Let's see, is it time to leave miners for Bitcoin ETF? Well, that's your decision, right? But what if you what if you sell the miners now, get into the Bitcoin ETFs, and then tomorrow the miners start running like crazy, which is kind of what we've seen in the past happen too. That's why I don't trade them. That's why I've been dollar cost averaging into them, into my conviction ones, high conviction ones that I have. And then I'm just waiting patiently, buying the dips. And I know that the end game here is in the next 12 to 18 months to exit. So, I mean, it depends on your strategy. If you want to trade them, by all means. I've learned my lesson in the past, trying to trade things, and I've gotten burned and lost money on it. I've realized it's timing the market, not timing the market. Let's see here. What percentage of miners do you think survive by the end of the year? Well, if Bitcoin keeps going up in price, I think a lot of these guys will survive, if not all of them. Some of the smaller ones, maybe not. The ones that I don't cover, there's a bunch of them that are very small that I don't cover. Maybe some of those guys might, but I just don't know their numbers. The ones that I do cover right now seem like they're in a much better place with Bitcoin being up at 72, 73,000. And if it continues going up, they're going to be in a better spot there. Okay. Let's see here. Any thoughts on the new CEO of Mawson? Nope, not really. Haven't been really paying attention to what's going on there. They're one of the smaller ones. I thought they were one of the ones that was going to be on a chopping block. I thought maybe Cleanspark would be buying some of their facilities as well, if they got into, obviously, trouble here after the halving event. But that might not happen now as well. Let's see. Question, do you think the miners that are maintaining the HODL strategy will outgun the miners which don't? I do believe so, yeah. But it also depends, right? You got Hut 8 with a huge HODL position, but their operations as far as self-mining haven't been great. There's no real news or direction as far as where they're taking their self-mining. And you can see the stock being way down from where it should be, right? And that's because investors are looking for growth. And they don't see that in Hut 8, and that's why the stock is down to where it's at. So it all depends. If you got great growth ahead and you got HODL, yeah, I think they'll do, the miners will outperform the other ones that don't have a HODL. Let's see here. Oh, hey, thank you for the super chat, for the tip. And then let's see here. So let me see if I can pop that up. Thank you again. I'm trying to find a question here. Hold on. What are my thoughts on Riot? Riot is like, I mean, it's a baby, mini size of Marathon. Well, they're actually better a little bit in some ways than Marathon because they have infrastructure. But the part with Riot is they have problems with their operations as well, right? They have 12.6 exahash, but they're operating at like they're at 8 exahash for a long time. They do curtail a lot. They do get power credits, which is great, but those are also hit and miss sometimes. In the third quarter of last year, they got like 30 some odd million in power credits, and in the following quarters they got like 2-3 million. So it's a hit or miss on that one. But they are building out, I think it's Corsicana facility, which is supposed to be 1 gigawatt, and that's all going to be immersion cooling. That should be much better. They're getting new miners. They're also getting newer miners to replace some of the older miners at Rockdale, which should help with the uptime, hopefully. So there's been issues there, and they're working to resolve those issues. If they can resolve those issues, I think they'll do a lot better going forward. But they need to improve on their uptime. They know it. If you guys haven't seen the interview with Bryce McNally, Anthony, and Jason Less from Riot, definitely check it out. He owns up to it that they have been basically behind the 8 ball here with operations and things like that, and they're working on getting that resolved. So that'll be interesting to watch, right? Plus, they have huge growth plans ahead. So I'm definitely rooting for them to do well, and if they can improve their uptime, it'd be one of those miners that I want to get into, but not right now at least. Let's see here. Question, with the 40% increase in efficiency and 3x growth in Bitfarms, do you have a personal estimate target price with those factors in mind? It depends where Bitcoin goes in value, but my personal targets are somewhere between like $15 and $30, and like, top of the bull run here potentially, if things go well. We saw, obviously they're pretty undervalued right now, and they're being kept down a little bit because there's a fear of dilution, right? They have a 375 million they're going to be pulling on. We saw the same thing with Cleanspark, with others as well. When they were diluting, the stock was kind of hampered down a little bit. And then once they came out and said that they're fully funded to whatever exahash, that's when the stock takes off, right? So that's kind of what I'm waiting on. And as long as the price is down low, I'll continue to buy. I bought Bitfarms on Monday a little bit, and I'll continue to do that. Let's see here. Trying to find a question. Okay, I'm catching up here a little bit. All right. Do you expect a correction with the upcoming Fed meeting? Well, we have the Fed meeting also, and then we also have, what do they call it, the witching hour, the quad thing. I can't remember what it's called exactly now, where the options are expiring on Bitcoin miners and things like that, where there's like 4 different things operate on the same day, on like Friday. I think it's even this Friday maybe. So we'll see what happens there. But we'll see what the Fed says, right? Inflation hasn't been too bad. We're up 3.2, I think, for the last month or something like that, 3.2, 3.1. So it's not that bad. I think they're just going to monitor it, see where it goes, and we may not get rates cuts until maybe later in the summer or something like that. We'll see where it goes. I'm not too worried about it. And I think we're pretty much cut up here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think we're pretty much cut up here, and we've gone way past the 10 minutes here. So appreciate you guys all coming in here. Like I said before, let's see if this shows up on this one. I don't know if it's going to show up. Not that one. I don't want that one. I wanted this one, and you can't see it on here. Oh, it's too dark. Let's go over here. So, okay. Bitcoin halving clock, 35 days away, right? Be patient out there. It's going to be a bumpy ride, like I keep saying. Have conviction in the stocks that you're wanting to get into. If you do, HODL them. That's what I'm doing. And then just be patient, because it's going to be at least another maybe 12 to 18 months before they reach the tops. Right now, it's a different cycle that we've had before. We've never had Bitcoin be above the previous all-time high before the halving event. That's different this time. We got the spot Bitcoin ETFs as well. That's different this time. Things could be a lot more exciting. We could go much higher than we actually think. So just be on the lookout for things. Do as much research as you can. From multiple sources, not just from me, from everybody else on Twitter, places like that, YouTube. Do as much research as you can, get as much information as you can to stay informed on what's happening here. And that's always a good thing, I think, to hear different side of things, right? I may have things one way, somebody else might have things another ways. It's always good to get opposing sides of view. But that is it. We'll obviously monitor what's going on here with Bitcoin, with the miners, until, the very end here. And I'll obviously let you guys know when I do start selling, which might not be for another 12 to 18 months, or it might be in 6 months. If Bitcoin goes up to 250,000 and, I'm up 1,000% on some of these mining stocks. So we'll see. But we'll keep you guys abreast of what's going on. Other than that, like I said, thank you so much for coming in. Greatly appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the questions. If you guys have any other questions, hit me up in the comments down below. And then the next live stream is going to be on Saturday. We'll see what we do tomorrow. And then also Saturday, doing another Twitter Spaces with the Bitcoin mining stock guy. Never remember his full name on there. The guy. Last time we went 5 hours. We just talked about pretty much everything and anything Bitcoin related. So that was fun. Maybe this time we'll go for 6 hours, try to break our record. But yeah, you guys are more welcome to join there. That information is on my Twitter page as well. So that's it. Again, thank you so much for coming in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.